Hello, people. Hello, people. I'm thinking about how to do something. I'm thinking about this. And I'm like, maybe we just parse notes as statements always. Hmm. How long am I staying in Miami? I am leaving tomorrow. Did I actually meet up? Yes. I've met up with people a few times. Why doesn't the second line parse? Because right now, notes are only parsed in a couple of specific cases. Um, the main one was declarations because I don't know. I was just thinking about notes as being a way to tag things, um, for your meta program to look at, and declarations are like a basic unit of things in the program, right? So this is a declaration, but what happens is the enum thing it calls a like parse expression, or it just calls parse block actually. There's this routine parse block, and parse block, it parses any statements like you would have in a procedure even, but then we reject later anything that we don't like. It makes the parsing easy, right? And uh, you know, you can give better error messages if you say like, oh, you tried to like do an addition statement here, but you're inside an enum, dude, and that's not legal, right? As opposed to if you write like weirdly special parsing for all these things like some languages do, then it's like just like syntax error, right? Which is doesn't really help anyone. So what happens is we parse this line, and that's a declaration. And when we parse a declaration, we look for notes, and we see a note, and we go, okay. When we parse this line, we just see an identifier followed by a semicolon, which is legal. Um, that's just an expression. So that just doesn't really make anything happen in your program, but it's legal. Um, but we don't look for a note because we don't look for notes on arbitrary um, arbitrary things. So I could ignore this for now because it's not that important. I could say, hey, we're going to do notes all through your program, like as statements and stuff, but that actually doesn't seem very good. And the reason it doesn't seem very good is because you could just define like a macro or something that evaluates to nothing that you use um, as a note for your metaprogram to look at. And That's like more strongly typed. Um, because if you typo it, that's an error and stuff. However, I also was thinking of converting notes to being like that. So who knows? I don't know. I basically am not sure what to do here. Um, is note like to do XXS, etc.? No, it is something that your meta program actually sees. I'm tired again. Wow. My bedtime in Miami seems to be a little earlier than it is in San Francisco. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Um, so this might be another short stream. Do I have bad posture? I don't know. Does the note need to be attached to it needs to be attached to a declaration right now, because that's where they're stored for your meta program to look at them. Now this, okay, so the thing is, this does get turned into a declaration, all right? That happens like later, um, because the enum again gets this back and it looks for statements that consist of just one identifier, and it says, oh, that's a thing that I, as an enum, desugar into a thing, all right? So that's actually fine. Um, oh, the problem is we just don't parse the note, right? Because we do that desugaring after parsing, and the note needs to be parsed during parsing. You assume it's hot in Miami? It's kind of hot, but it's not bad usually. One day it was really hot. Are notes similar to pragmas? No, because they are defined by you, what they mean. They're defined by you. They are not compiler defined. The notes have a structure. Right now they're just strings. And that's maybe bad. And so like in the back of my mind is like long term I want to do an overhaul of notes so that they're more structured. But is that relevant to making a decision? Like how much do I care about this right now? I mean, it's a lame thing for the language not long term to handle this, but really the important question is like, so it's a general request that people would like to put notes in more places. Hmm. You know what? I think I'm going to punt this one, but I'm going to go on the secret Discord and say like, hey, let's have a discussion this week. Can notes take arguments? They can't right now. Again, that was part of the long-term plan of making them more structured, is you'd have a way to make them take arguments with type checking and stuff, which I think is more powerful. Um, right now, you can put whatever you want in the string, and then you can parse things out of the string, but like you're parsing strings, right? So that's kind of gross. Um, what is the purpose? I've done many, many demos on what is the purpose of notes. They're very useful. You need the magic lamp. Well, we will have the magic lamp starting Tuesday, unless I die on the plane or in the airport or driving back from the airport. or driving to the airport, or in the hotel tomorrow morning before I get in the car. So I think what I'm gonna do is here's what we're gonna do. We did this last year where we just had beta users on the Twitch chat, um, and uh, and then I mainly paid attention to the beta users. And so let's do a thing about that. Last time it was like me sharing my plans for libraries, which still haven't been done because other things were better. But I'm gonna make it a special topic on notes. So the reason why I just hid my screen was so I could pull up the secret Discord and type to people. Wait, Discord says we're changing our brand look. Discord was made for people who play games. So they're going to make it look like Facebook. I mean, it already kind of looked like Facebook. Like, I don't. This is one of those things where when you hire UI designers, they just have to change everything all the time for no good reasons. Okay, I'm going to put an announcement. Actually, hold on. Yes. Okay, so we'll do Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. 7 p.m. on Wednesday, we'll do another beta tester special stream. Um, this one is about notes. It feels like time to expand the functionality there, or at least decide what the future is. But I'm not sure it's the best thing to do, so we would like to hear from the beta testers what they would like. Um, so I'll be doing a live stream, paying attention just to the Discord channel for the Q&A for a while. After that settles down, we'll open the questions, comments up to the public. Um, So if they're structured notes and you can put them like statements or anywhere, isn't that redundant uh, with an empty macro, etc., that your matter program could just search for? What is really the difference there? Whatever else you think about notes. Okay. And then I will put this on the tweeters. And because I'm very lazy, I'm just going to paste it. I'm going to tweeter this out. I probably misspelled some things in there because whatever. Okay, so that lets me punt on this particular bug for now, which is, whoops, which is great. I just misclicked and closed the web browser. Nobody would ever want to close their web browser, except that I need it to read an email of some other Bugsnax, because we are not going to do this Bugsnax right now. Okay. What other Bugsnax could we look at? I thought that one was going to be easy, and it wasn't. I kind of don't want to do any of these. Oh, let's look at this one. This is an internal compiler error. Yeah, let's look at that. Oops, I didn't get the whole thing. What's going on? I think just being in warm weather makes me tired earlier. Maybe that's just not that good. I don't know. Okay, this is a thing that someone sent in, and this causes an internal compiler error for some reason. I'm assuming that our other declarations don't correctly wait. So because this is inside a static if, oh, it's probably that this gets inserted down at the bottom. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. Okay. Advanced union. Yeah, it's more like messy union. Messy union. Okay. So we're going to compile this, and it is going to be internal compile error and held case and do insertions for using. Wait, does this have to do with the place at all? I feel like this doesn't have to do with the place at all. I think that's just coincidence. Yeah, I think it's just the u. Yeah, Okay, well, it's always good if you have a simple repro. All right, but I assume if we don't do the parameter, then it's fine. No, what? Why is this dude reporting this like it's... Declaration style using only applies to structs, enums. Okay, so there's two things. One is the internal compiler error. Um, Maybe I misunderstood the report. I thought he was saying it works if it's just a struct, but oh, he might have meant, yeah, never mind. I might be confusing this with another report. Anyway, so here it's like one is the policy should be anytime you say something like this, where you say like it's not one of these things that this is valid on, you should say what the compiler thinks that it is. Um, because that helps people figure out what's wrong. Because if you say it's not one of the following blahs, but the user thinks it is one of the following blahs, then they have no information and they're stuck, right? And that's not good. So you want to like tell them, you want to say, hey, it's actually not one of those, it is this thing. Which gems were my favorite? I mean, the problem with like graphics gems and GPU gems or whatever is they probably don't apply to you, right? You get this big book full of all these things and it's like, oh, that's nice. And one or two of them might be relevant. And the problem is I'm just too busy to read random gems for appreciation's sake. Um, Using the covariance matrix for better fitting bounding objects sounds like crap, dude, though. I did that like in the 90s and it actually doesn't produce very good fits. Like naively you would think that it would, but it like doesn't. Unless they do something like, so the way that you would use the covariance matrix is like, okay, you get your three eigenvectors out of it, right? And then the longest eigenvector is sort of one axis of your bounding box or whatever. But the problem is that like outliers and just generally weird asymmetries on a shape um, generally mean that if you have an object that's long in one direction, your longest eigenvector is not going to point along that direction very well. It's going to point, I don't know, 30 degrees to it or something, which actually gives you then a bounding box that has like giant ass empty corners everywhere. It's quite a big bounding box, actually. So like you kind of need to do a search no matter what. Maybe that gem said to do that, but if it just says use the eigenvectors, that's crap. Don't do it. Game Programming Gems 4. Oh, they were from the section I edited. I see. That gem is wrong? Well, I don't remember what it says. I mean, okay, that would have been like around 2000 and something. That was in the single digit 2000s. And I would have done the covariance stuff. Oh, maybe after that. I don't know. I don't know what order history happened. No, I wouldn't say it's wrong. I would just say, in fact, I almost wonder if I wrote that article. Because there was a time when I was actually super into covariance matrices. Anyway, that shows you how much I remember these things. Okay, it's getting hot in here. I gotta turn on the air conditioner, and that's gonna make noise. Okay, I think chat died. I no longer see chat. Yeah, I actually had a really hard time getting together enough articles for that Game Programming Gems 4. It was a lot harder than I expected to find high quality contributions at that time. I wonder if it would be easier now. I consider Texas. I considered Texas, but I don't like it as much. Okay, so I could print out the type in this error, and then we'll worry about this error after. I don't know what its deal is. Because math.vector3, that's a, that's like if I said this, right? Like if I just take off the equals. No, that works. Huh. That like, that probably should work. All right. Maybe those are both like one after the other in the source code. Let's see. So, um, see, that's not necessarily helpful though, right? Because structs are, This is still not going to help a noob tremendously, but putting a label. It's a redundant site, so let me just report it. Okay. Let's see. So now this internal compiler error, so this is maybe due using insertion. Oh, unhandled case. Hmm. Right, so this should not be an internal compiler error. Attempt to using a non-constant value. This is not possible because the thing being used. I mean, how do I explain this? Right? If it changes at runtime, you can't do because using is a compile time operation. It cannot apply to things. I mean, this is not correct anyway. This is only for the case of using a type. It cannot. It's a compile time operation, so it needs to know which type it applies to. If the type can change at runtime, the using has no idea what to do. Sometimes I'm really not very good at writing error messages. So like down here, like I actually feel like that's not, yeah. Well, improved error messages. Internal compiler. Guys, you didn't see most of this value, but beta 61, it's got a lot of value in it. Beta 61 was like, that was the $60,000 Bitcoin, the $61,000 Bitcoin of betas. Now we're down to the $48,000 Bitcoin. They conclude saying it's not always the most appropriate solution and might not compute the best fitting bounding shape. Yeah. Okay. I mean, the thing is, it's probably in most cases better than if you just pick the axes of your coordinate system or whatever. Although sometimes maybe not, right? Because like if you have a big long spaceship with some things hanging off it, that's probably modeled with the spaceship being along the coordinate system axis. So then if you take the eigenvectors, you're going to get a worse fit. So maybe if you just try both, like that's a good, like a simple low-hanging fruit strategy is just try two things, right? Try your default coordinate system and then try the eigenvectors of the covariance matrix and see which one is better, right? You can tell which one's better. You just take the volume of the bounding box. I mean, that's not even really, it's unclear whether that's a good metric either, but it's something, right? It's some way to judge which one is a tighter fit. So you take the volume of your bounding box, and there you go. You might also, another thing you might optimize for is the bounding box with the shortest sides. But volume kind of is shortest sides. It's kind of geometric mean of the shortest sides. Kind of, maybe exactly. Anyway, do you know what I would do today? This, like, if, okay, so the covariance matrix is linear, all right? So what you could do, imagine you take the covariance matrix of the thing, and you get like a certain major eigenvector, right? And you suspect it's not pointing exactly the direction that you want. You could put like a cylinder around the object, and you could shrink the cylinder, and as you shrink it, you discard points that are outside the cylinder, right? And then you see how that eigenvector changes, and if it like converges on something, because the cylinder would be like chopping off the protrusions, right? Which are the things that would skew the eigenvector. And that sounds expensive, but it's cheaper than you think because you don't have to recompute the covariance matrix every time. You just incrementally subtract out the points that you're discarding. You still have to test the points against the cylinder, which is really, I mean, unless you have a spatial data structure built for the thing, that's about as slow as doing the covariance matrix anyway. But um, you can't picture them in your head or intuitively understand them. Okay, I wrote an article about this. It's really old. So if you look at this, this is an article I wrote a long time ago. And so what happens is here's a point cloud, right? And when you take the covariance matrix of this point cloud, it gives you, I thought I had another diagram, but it gives you the mean, right? And then two eigenvectors. And those eigenvectors, the mean is like the center of this ellipse, and the eigenvectors are the major and minor axes of this ellipse. Um, and you can see how this point cloud is, it's like kind of represented like this ellipse. It kind of represents that point cloud as a physical thing, right? Um, and what was I doing here? Yeah, I wasn't totally stupid in 2002. I did some okay things. Dude, that was 19 years ago that I wrote this article. Jeez. So this one, there was like another article after this one. Maybe. Wait, no. Maybe not. Um, So anyway, the covariance matrix is just this thing. Like the font kind of didn't survive here, but you just take x squared, y squared, and the cross terms, right? And you add that together. For 2D, it's small. For 3D, it's a 3 by 3 matrix, which is, pretty small on a modern computer. And you just do that for all the points, right? So you could see, okay, the discussion we were having before was about making bounding boxes, right? So if you're taking the bounding box of this thing, or if you were computing one, so one way to compute a bounding box, I was going to screenshot it and put it in a paint program, but let's not bother. One way to compute a bounding box would be just to use the axes. So you would get a box like this, right? And that leaves a big empty corner in the upper left and the lower right, right? But if you took this as the axis of your bounding box, it would be a much better fit for this shape because your long axis is actually pretty close to the long axis of this point cloud and then your short axis. And you would get, for this, you would get a much tighter fit. It's even a little, I think fits tend to be worse in 3D than 2D, but I'm not sure about that. Um, that's probably provable. Anyway, so that's what it looks like. So the, like, what is it called? It's called principal component analysis when you get all the eigenvectors and eigenvalues, right? Um, just this ellipse is, it's the spectral decomposition, right? Is that is that what it's called? It's called both those things, right? I don't fucking know. I haven't done linear algebra in a long time. But basically, this is what that gives you, this blue ellipse. I wonder if this link still works. Central limit theorem. Hey, their equations are blurry too. They need to rerun all these at higher res. Look at all that. Central limit theorem says that everything becomes a Gaussian eventually. Anyway, so we have delivered a small amount of value. Oh, I actually want to return there so we don't, like, there's no need to give another, you don't want to do a C style, give a bunch of error messages for no good reason, right? Like if you've given them enough to solve the problem and more would be, let's actually put the same alert down here. Okay, so commit. How slow this is. Come on. It's just on this laptop that Subversion's that slow. Actually, on one of my desktops, it's weirdly slow if I ever try to like diff a file. It takes like 30 seconds. I don't know. I don't know, man. How important is a tight fit? I mean, It depends. That really depends on your application. Like, so boxes for things that are highly irregular in shape, right, that are much longer in one direction than another direction, then boxes are obviously going to be much tighter fit than spheres, right? And that might matter. So, for example, if you're doing frustum culling, you don't want to have all these long objects that you're drawing, even though they're off the screen. Um, on the other hand, if your objects are mostly kind of like spherical anyway, um, then a sphere is probably pretty good. And in fact, can be a tighter fit than boxes because boxes, again, the problem with boxes is they have these big corners that stick out everywhere. I actually wonder, instead of doing a bounding box, you kind of want something where the corners don't stick that far out, like maybe an ellipsoid or a super ellipsoid or something, right? I wonder, I wonder how easy it is to ask, does an ellipsoid intersect this plane? It's probably not hard. If it's not much more expensive, it might be cheaper than a box. Holy shit. That might actually be true. Asking, does this ellipse intersect this plane, might be cheaper than a box. And if it is, it's probably a better fit to a lot of things anyway. Because again, the corners are what kill you. And the thing about an ellipse is you get three separate dimensions. Hmm. It'd be super nice to mention explicitly the algorithmic complexity of the methods. Of what methods? Of what kind of thing? Do you mean like of looking up an identifier or something? Like the problem is if you specify that too much, you don't really allow other implementations. Yeah, and also it is true, like algorithmic complexity doesn't, like there are things that are supposedly n log n that are way slower for real cases than things that are supposedly n squared or whatever. Like, I mean, on the one hand, yeah, I don't know. When you were doing sine distance functions, the ellipsoids were much cheaper. Then I don't know. I don't know why we did bounding boxes so much back in the day. Maybe that was us being stupid, by which I mean like all of game development. When you were doing sine distance functions, they were much cheaper. Yeah, well, I mean, asking whether an ellipse crosses a plane is basically the same thing. I guess like I guess the question is how hard is it to hierarchically bound an ellipsoid with another ellipsoid, right? Like it doesn't seem hard to bound one by a point cloud, although again I would have to think about that. Um, because I'm just not used to thinking about them. Um, but like if you've got three ellipsoids at different orientations, and then you want to make the minimal one that surrounds those three, is that seems like it might actually be hard. For spheres, that's easy. Well, okay, for spheres, if you choose the center, then it's trivial, right? The center of the result sphere. Um, and I don't even know if that's true for ellipses. Maybe it is. Maybe you can write like the max distance from a point in closed form. I don't know. I don't know enough math. I don't know enough math. Doesn't distance to an ellipse require sines and cosines? Um, okay, the thing is, you kind of get sines and cosines for free when you're doing geometric problems. So for example, if you have a plane and you have a vector from an ellipse, then the dot product of that gives you the angle between the two things, or the cosine of the angle between the two things, right? Sorry. It gives you the cosine of the angle between the two things very cheaply, right? Um, so if that's what you want, it's very fast. Like you're used to thinking of cosine as something that's slow, but sometimes it's completely natural. Okay. I'm going to turn off my screen again. Like I said, I'm a little bit tired, but we're going to go a little bit more. What is this? I'm not on my regular computer, so I'm all doing everything wrong. Okay. So I'm going to go to the mailbag. I close the web browser again. I'm going to open it up. Go to my here. I'm going to say um, this is fixed in the next beta. Boom. All right. We've still got a bunch of things to fix. Crash using a generated constant as a module parameter. Try to use a constant created by a metaprogram as a module parameter. Okay, I want to at least look at this. Okay. Close that. Come back on. Is the mailbag large? The number of pending things, like bugs that aren't fixed yet, it's not huge. But it's, you know, they're there. There are some bugs. Right. So, I downloaded these files. repro. Okay. Indeed. Okay, so he's saying it gets a crash. We get an assert before the crash, which is good. It just helps us track it down. Usually that's true when we run the debug compiler. So we're in repro and we're going to go first. Oops. Doing that. And I've probably got some breakpoints that we don't want. All this other stuff. Okay. So we're in type check arguments helper. Type given does not exist, which seems very bad. That means that something hasn't been inferred by the time we're here, which is bad. Oh, it's the module parameters call. Okay. So he said he put something generated by the meta program in here. Yeah, there are some people doing game engine stuff for sure, including us, but there are also beta testers. Call arrow load info uh, short name. I just renamed all that stuff. Target line 9. Okay, easy enough. Count is count from meta program, and I assume that just gets added as a constant. So why are we just like not correctly waiting on the thing, or is there a more insidious problem? We may just not be correctly waiting on the thing. So here we have an identifier. It's gonna, whoops, delete. We have an identifier. It's called count from meta program. It's not resolved. Excuse me? Excuse me? This just isn't even a thing. Why are you inferring the module parameters call? Okay, hold on. It's index 4 in the thing. We're at 2. Oh, it's a totally different thing. What? They're flattened within. Import directive. That is the right place. And this is the module parameters. Oh, so what happens is this call, do I make this call? I think so, right? Yeah. So when I make this call, um, maybe this is fine. Maybe this thing has to yield and it's not. I'm very confused. Okay. So for the call, it's been inferred already, which normally does not happen unless all your arguments get inferred. Um, but I'm assuming that we fudge that in this case and that that is the reason that we are sad. Okay, so let's just say see if that goes through normal channels here. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Still a while off before public beta testing. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I think we are going to continue expanding the beta at a decent clip. We're almost up to 100 people. I think we have it. Yeah, we're between 90 and 100 right now. We're just going to keep raising the numbers for a while. Am I one of the developers of Binding of Isaac? Yeah, I'm the guy who cries all the time. I'm actually in a video game, though. I'm one of the few developers who is in a video game. Actually, there's a few. Spelunky has a few game developers in it, but which video game? I'm in 1001 Spikes. because I like the game so much, I guess they put me in. I don't know. I'm a playable character in 1001 Spikes. Was that before or after the talk? Well, that was before because the game came out with me in it, and I gave that talk after it was out. Okay, so we are here. I assume this call, well, it definitely doesn't have an inferred type because we wouldn't be here otherwise. Okay. Okay, so its module parameters. See, this isn't good. Like, so that's in the import as well. So normally, when we flatten a procedure call, we do all the parameters. And they would have to be inferred before we got here. And I'm not sure if there's an exception to that in this case. Doesn't look like it. So this has one thing in it, right? This is flattened within 420, index 4. And the call, Visual Studio, man. The call is flattened within index 420 and it's index 5. So we got here. But like, the hell? It's not inferred. So like, we got here, but it's not inferred. WTF. Okay, well, what happened there? Wherefore art thou? Feel like for some reason that's not going to go, but wow, data breakpoints are just inhumanly slow on this. Some people are criticizing Elon because at PayPal he preferred Windows to Linux. That's great. Well, one of the people in that argument can land rockets. that are the largest flying objects ever created, and the other person in that argument cannot do that. So I kind of I kind of know what side to be on in that argument. Okay, resolve scope entry. It is not resolved. That says false. Okay, we bail. When we come back, what? So when we return false like that, we're not supposed to go on to the next thing. We're supposed to come back later and go on to the same thing. Hold on. Let's do that again. These are both the import, right? Yes, some people will get angry at Elon Musk for wanting to use Windows instead of Linux. And then other people will step in and say, excuse me, it's GNU/Linux. And then other people will step in and say, excuse me, but not even GNU/Linux is acceptable anymore because Linus Torvalds has been canceled for being a mean person. So nobody can use his operating system, so you should use Windows. Except, oh wait, Bill Gates met Jeffrey Epstein sometimes. So you better use Apple. You got to use Apple because they kick out Hispanic authors from their company and have slave labor, maybe, according to some people. Do the new developers understand the big picture well now? I mean, one of the people was only hired 2 weeks ago, and you know, it's a complicated program. People are ramping up. Are they working on major features? Right now, we are working on performance and just like bugs or hitting features that are wacky on some platforms and making them consistent. Um, and then people will be moving on to other major features. Yeah, Matt Taibbi's article uh, has some Dr. Dre lyrics in it. He's like, this is who Apple is keeping employed, and this is who Apple is firing. It's quite stark when you read that article. How should ramp up typically work when you start working on a large code base you're unfamiliar with? I don't know. You just have to work with it because it's complicated, right? You just have to get it. Your goal is to get it as quickly as you can. Okay, so we're going to return false. We could, I don't know why we don't yield on the ident. That's weird to me, but okay. So anyway, so what queued is this? So flattened's cursor should be what? 4? Yes. What? It's a different flattened. Wait, is this the same? Oh, this is on program parameters. Right, okay. So it's a different queued. This is on program parameters. See, we're crossing the streams here. Imagine a do like application that would actually be useful to me and my team. Not really. I mean, to the team, maybe. Like when we're shipping a game, we use a bug tracker, but I don't use one all the time. Dude, I don't even do notes in text files. I write notes on pieces of paper and then scribble them out later. JetBrains, isn't that some Java thing? JetBeans? I don't know anything about JetBeans. Okay, I might be too tired to do this now. This might be one of the things where I leave it off, like where I've hunted it down enough and we'll come back in the morning. Um, the deal is program parameters. Probably the flatten for program parameters flattens the call, but module parameters flattens the arguments. That like doesn't make that much sense to me, but it was probably, or in that it was the import directive. So the import directive is not inferring. So what we could do is right when we make this program parameters directive, we could actually put the import in there before the call. Let's see. Right. Okay. So um, this call, I think, is maybe the same as this call. I think if we knew what the import was, yeah, let's see. Come on, am I matching case or something? I'm just looking for the place that allocates this. What? Come on, bro. What? Sometimes things are hard to search for. Okay, we're just gonna. Okay, we're gonna do this. Oh my God, it's 0. Why is it 0? Because we don't knew it in the normal way. Because that's located on something else. I did this recently, but I don't remember. Where does this get created? Hmm. 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 Oh, in Beeline. There. Oh, it doesn't have a paren before it. Okay. Right. I should have known. So we actually need to wait for this import to infer. We're going to say we're just being specific, all right? Okay, so then if we just do this, maybe that's not the cleanest way to do it. I don't know. This is one of these problems that we just wouldn't have if we were C or C++ or any of these languages that just makes you type things in order. We wouldn't have this problem. Sort of, I guess. Maybe we would. Actually, we might still have this one. Hey! Hey! Okay. See, I was tired, but I fixed it. Sometimes, oops, sometimes I can think even when I'm tired. Okay, I can close this shell because we fixed this one. That was a different bug. Okay, I'm going to optimistically, preemptively email the beta tester, and I'm going to say fixed in the next beta. Which one was this? Okay, this was just a nonlinear compilation problem, which happened because program parameters are new. It's fixed in the next beta. Send. Boom. Boom. Okay. Oh, come on, Gmail. Thank you. Okay. How's our testing going? That's still going because it's debugs. Are we still doing? We never did a Unity build. What are you talking about? Unity build is a horrible idea when you're including LLVM header files, which we are. LLVM is a giant pool of toxic waste. And if you compile that giant pool of toxic waste every time you compile, you are sad. It's great that I address each bug submitter personally. Yeah, I don't know how long into the future that will scale, but right now it doesn't take that much effort compared to fixing the bug. And so it's easy to do. Who knows? Who knows? But it's fun. It's fun to do. It's fun to say like, hey, you know, I see your bug, and I'm fixing your bug, and there you go. All right. So that's great. How's that? That's great. Well, we're gonna say uh, fixed errors crashes due to program parameters not being ready yet. Try to use them sometimes. Like that's already This would already be enough to ship the value to the people, but I want to get some more of the bugs off the Bugsnax. This one, like this beta had like major change in it, but for this beta, I think it's just going to be fixes. Did I deal with the Heisenbug? Yes, long ago. And then we had another Heisenbug after that, and then that one got dealt with. And we actually have another one, but it's minor. It doesn't really cause compilation failures, but we should take care of it. Are you talking about target programs being compiled as a Unity build? Um, that concept doesn't mean the same thing in this language. Like Unity build doesn't like I guess the answer to your question is yes, that's how it works. But like that's just how the whole language works. It's not the same idea as in C where you would have a bunch of compilation units and then you put them together. It's like no, that's just how it is. Just sent me a tiny bug. Well, I'm gonna go to bed. Um, but I think this one actually, I need to look through the bug reports, but I think this one that we just fixed, somebody else's bug also was that. Like somebody had a bug where like 10% of the time or 5% of the time, their program parameters crashed. And I think it's the same thing, but we'll investigate that later. Now, we will commit. And for now, our copy of the compiler locally is the best one in the world. It's better than what all the beta people have because they only have beta 61. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. See, if you run like a git nightly git hub ranch dressing lab, then people can just grab your nightly beta, but like we don't do that here. Do you have any pointers for implementing shadows? No, I mean, it's what is good to do for shadows is kind of contextual to your game again. Like it's really, first person shadows are pretty different from, uh, like shadows for the Sokoban game where we have a constrained camera. By tiny, you mean that the issue is a missing enum value in code node dot kind. Really? Probably that's true. Which one is it? Block literal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 17. So definitely everything up to 30. Why do these seem spaced so differently? Anyway, so 34 is not used. All right. 28. Oh, this thinks. All right. Well, 51. Insert. Ah, yes. All right. That's a good point. All right. Well, that's great. Let's do a release build of everything. Make sure we didn't screw something up real bad. Did you miss 13? 13 is remove. Remove. All right. That's value for the people. Added missing declaration for as directive. Insert in modules compiler code no kind. Yeah. Oh, just directive insert. That's a good point. See, this is what happens when I'm tired. These things happen. Um, yes. Yes. Okay. Good thing I changed that in the middle of this test. Yeah, nobody's using this declaration, so it shouldn't mess anything up, but I am just being paranoid. Good catch. I am not going to reply to that email saying the bug has been fixed because you are right here. So you know that this will be in the next beta. Look how long this takes. Oh my God. It's not like this on any other computer. This laptop is just a butt. All right, thank you everybody. I'm going to sign off, go to bed. It's only 9 p.m. back California time, but not where I am. It's much later. Thank you, and we will do more streams sometime soon. We will ship more value. Like at this rate, we will be shipping so much value to the people again. It's going to be awesome. All right, thanks everybody. See you later.